Well, welcome, Helen Zink, to be with you and introduce your book, the lovely green cover on it. I'm sure people have seen this book because it's been all over social media and on some blog posts and things like that. So really delighted to talk to you a little bit more about it. So can you kick us off with why did you write this book in the first place?
Well, first of all, thank you, Tammy, for inviting me to speak. Why did I write the book? Well, I didn't really intend to publish a book necessarily, but my main motivation was that the story was worth telling. So the case study that it's based on came across so many different scenarios that coaches and clients can experience. I just felt that there was a lot to learn from everyone in relation to the case study.
Right. And I know that this happened a little while ago, but what were some of the key things that you were hoping that people would have kind of been gravitating towards, or what they wanted, where that things they could learn, because I know you're all about lifelong learning. So yeah. Why get this book? What are people going to learn?
Well, I think depending on who you are, you'll get different insight from the book. So if you're a coach or a team coach or a coach supervisor, you will get some real life experience of some of the things that can happen in a real life case and some of the different ways that the terrain, if you like, can be navigated. So some real life experience there. If you're a leader or a team or an organization, you'll get some insight in terms of how to work with a coach, whether that be a team coach or any other coach, and also some of the things that you might need to be aware of in terms of who needs to be included, leadership styles that you might need to think about to enable the team to do what they need to do, and expectations of different stakeholders within the system.
Yeah, really important. And I think that that's one of the exciting things that I've heard about this book as well, and why it was so needed, is that you look at the elements within what we would call a CAS, a complex adaptive system. What are some of those perspectives that you take throughout the book?
Yeah, thank you. So that's probably one of the main points of difference is that most case studies, certainly that I'm aware of, are written from the perspective of the coach or the team coach. So what's different about this is we actually hear the voice of the team or someone representing the team and their thoughts on the process and what they learnt. I also co-authored a chapter with the team leader where he talks about his thoughts and experiences and the changes that he went through. We hear from a senior human resources executive within the organisation who writes on behalf of the organisation, her leadership team, and also staff reporting to the team. So quite a wide systemic view. And probably the one that tickles your fancy the most, Tammy, I imagine, is a chapter that you wrote most of around supervision and other support. So that was around formal supervision, but also other support that I gained through the process as well. And just while we're on that, actually, can I ask you a question, if I may?
Sure.
Um, how typical were some of the things that came up in supervision and you talk about in the chapter in your experience working with other scenarios and other cases?
Well, without giving away too much of what's already in the book, as you have so elegantly role modeled there, is that, really the importance in the industry about having professional supervision. Working with complex adaptive systems is not for the faint at heart. I mean, I've been team coaching for, gosh, 20 some odd years now, and I still am in professional supervision. It's tricky. It's nice to have multiple eyes. And that's one of the delights in this chapter as well, because you talk about informal support as well through friends and family, through your peer supervision network, which we would also like to see people doing in team coaching, going back to your learning groups that you had during the team coaching training that you went through, etc. And I think that, one of the things that I love about this book that I'd like you to talk about a little bit more, Helen, is that this was written because you yourself are a visual learner and quite high on visuals. So there's some really great little vignettes in there, case studies, nomenclature about how various, kind of well-known subjects that not everybody might know about, some of their history, all of that is in there. But tell us a little bit about this concept of the hats that came
Mm.
up in supervision and how the hats and some of the other visuals support the reader in navigating this. Because some people don't want to just read a heavy academic publication, and this offers that variety as well.
Yeah, thank you. If I had the choice, the whole thing would be a picture book, Tammy, but but I think some words were necessary. I actually think in pictures, which a lot of people do. So to me, the way to make sense of things is to draw a diagram. So as you've described, I've included a lot of those diagrams, or many diagrams, in the book itself. Some to explain the scenario that the team or I or another player was going through, and some to explain theories, as you said, or coaching theories to help people see that in a visual form. The hats thing was really around role clarity. So when we were talking in supervision around the various roles that I had, I really saw hats in my head almost flying around in some kind of whirlwind, and a lot of confusion around which hat I should actually be wearing or which roles I should be taking on. And over time, or over discussions that we've had, or we had at the time, some of the hats I should never have had on in the first place. Some of them were totally appropriate, and some were appropriate at times. So it was like taking them on and taking it on and taking it off again. And also within the case study, readers will find that for the first part of the case, I was an internal coach and part of the team itself. And then later I became an external service provider. So the hats there were super interesting as well, because when I switched, or the scenario switched and I was in a different role, those hats were really difficult to rejuggle and move to the right places. So again, that whirlwind was spinning around.
Nice. And I know we need to kind of close this off a little bit, but one of the things we did not mention early on here is that, throughout the life of the journey of your story throughout this book, you kind of started off as an internal coach, then you were sort of internal and external, and then you were external only. And I think that that's such a unique opportunity for people to kind of see the life cycle. So do you have any tips for us without giving away, everything that's in the book?
Um,
Um,
Absolutely. The book is full of tips. So at the end of each chapter, there's actually a list of things that were good or challenging or learnt that come out in each chapter. So there's a great lists, if you like, of tips or things to consider when you look at the full book. But probably the three I'll touch on today, if that's all right, is around stakeholder involvement. So actually getting other parts of the organization or other parts of the system involved in the process right up front, and working through what their roles might be and how that everyone can support the system to shift. The second one is around role clarity, and the hats that we already talked about is around finding the correct roles, negotiating those, and things will shift along the way. So constantly reassessing which hats you should be wearing, and support. So the supervision and support piece that you talked about was really, really important. And not only the formal support through formal supervision, but other learning groups that I was part of, peer groups I was part of, and as you mentioned, informal through family and friends. I literally wouldn't have made the full journey if it wasn't for those support networks. Absolutely vital.
mm. Well, thanks for your time today, Helen. And just, I guess, as an ending plug, where can people pick up this book if they want to get a copy?
So there's a slide coming up now that will show you the link of where to buy the book and a QR code to scan if that's easier. And there's also a discount code there as well that's valid until the end of March 24, I believe.
Excellent. Well, good luck on taking this out into the world.
Thank you very much, Tammy, and thank you for your contribution to the book itself and also for the conversation today.
You are welcome.